Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
And I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Dr. Rob Davidson, West Michigan emergency physician and executive director of the Committee to Protect Healthcare, on what next for Medicaid and Medicare. Also on the program today, with the Texas death toll over 100, Trump administration is desperate to fight the obvious claims that cuts to the national weather system didn't hurt its response. Also on the program today, Trump and Netanyahu have a fascist off at the White House, discuss Gaza ethnic cleansing plans. And it's Taco Trump once again, flippity-flopping on the firmness.
More like folding. Tacos fold.
Tacos fold. They can also be limp. And his firmness on his import tax deadlines, I should say.
I like it semi-firm.
Meanwhile, in LA, off-brand Gestapo launches Operation Excalibur by attacking soccer nets in an LA public park. IRS to now allow churches to endorse candidates reversing decades-old non-tax prohibition. RFK sued over the COVID vaccine banishment. Trump reverses on Ukraine weapons ban. And real estate moguls mobilize in a panic over Zohran Mamdani. And lastly, the cute story of a Mike Lawler staffer who weirdly found herself in an anti-Mike Lawler signal chat under a fake name.
Huh?
All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is
Newsday, Tuesday. And here I am.
And
hello,
here is
hello.
Emma. Once again, just a reminder, Brian solo today. Day 2.
You're doing great.
It's a whole new set of challenges. Every day we try and bring up some other problem that's new.
Some last minute thing for you have to worry about right before the show.
We've made it extra complicated for Brian today by welcoming an in-studio guest who will be here probably for the fun half, maybe for a minute or two in the free half. But he is host of the Twitch stream Hasan Nabi. What is it? It's Hasan Piker will be here.
Well, I don't know anything about him, but that sounds a little terroristy. I mean, I'm really scared automatically.
We had to go through our handlers at the ADL to make sure that everything was okay, and also build out the studio because he's like 8 feet tall, is my understanding.
Yeah, so I'm glad we raised those ceilings last night.
Yep, that took a lot of work. Brian has been working overtime, doing both construction and now
a lot of focus gummies.
Let's talk about today the ICE, which was, by all accounts, literally, and I'm not being facetious about this, bankrupt in June. It was being reported the first week in June, I think it was in Bloomberg, that it was $1 billion underwater, now buoyed by the passage of the Republican reconciliation tax cut benefit bill. One of the biggest expenditures, no, I should say the biggest expenditure in this bill. It was $100 billion that was given to defense, but several times that given to essentially immigrant roundup and detention. And by immigrant, I mean just about anybody who didn't come over on the Mayflower.
I mean, just to give people a sense, that's a 265% annual budget increase for ICE's detention budget, just in that bill.
It's insane.
I mean, it's fascistic. It's fascistic. We're living through it. We're living through it.
And almost as if they wanted to do their own parade to show off their newfound strength, they assembled a squad of ICE guys, off-brand Gestapo.
They got to put on a costume today.
And did an assault on, it's MacArthur Park in Los Angeles. And essentially, we're there to what appears to be terrorizing children and assaulting cones on the field to that people use for soccer.
Well, I didn't know this because I'm not from LA, and I'd seen some LA residents say that it's a park that borders Koreatown and a heavily Latino neighborhood in Los Angeles. So, and then going after the soccer nets feels also racialized. If this is a park where immigrant communities play, it seems like that's the design.
It's to send a message. It's to scare. This is a terror move. This is a terror move. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It's a terror move. If this happened late at night and there were books to be burned, it would be crystal knocked. But it's not. This is nothing is going to come back exactly the way it was. Nothing is going to be exactly the same, but it's the similar dynamic. How do we terrorize local neighborhoods? And this is the way they chose to do it. There's no sound on this one. You can see them marching, and it's obviously been sped up just a little bit. They're doing this big sweep of like just a soccer field, an empty soccer field.
And we're hearing reports that Latino people in LA in particular, but it's all across the country, are afraid to go out in public, are afraid to go to the grocery store, are afraid to exist in society. And this is another attempt to put folks in the shadows and make them feel afraid. And there's reason to be afraid. Like some of these other reports out of LA of mothers being disappeared, and then you have lawyers calling the government and saying, and they're like, oh, we have no record of this person. Well, then where is she?
Keep in mind that there is probably close to 550, 600,000 DACA recipients, maybe a little bit more. And these are people who are brought to this country as little children who have spent 10, 15, 20 years, 25 years living here as Americans who are also now terribly afraid. DAPA folks similarly situated. They have a American child, and but they've been living here for 10, 20 years. They're not going to work. I mean, it's beginning to cut into both in LA's and California's economy. That border town in Texas now, there are reports, similar reports. People just aren't showing up to work. And we are on the cusp of a bunch of major harvesting. And I would imagine, based upon what you're going to hear later in the program from the Secretary of the of USDA, agriculture secretary, you're not going to see a lot of people going to harvest stuff. We got more footage of these stormtroopers invading a park in L.A. Here we go. Good thing they have all this gear and their camo for their urban warfare. Wait, what? Who are they marching on?
It looks like that guy. I don't know if that's a journalist or just a photographer for the photo op. I mean, aren't they? They're gonna try to use this to market.
How embarrassed do you have to be out there marching and we're going to assault a jungle gym? Here's Karen Bass, who, and I mean, I think, what is clear is when a guy like Zohran Mamdani wins in New York, or seems to be on the precipice of winning in New York, or has captured the nation's imagination, that type of candidate ends up becoming a template for other politicians in the country. Here is Karen Bass. This is what? Is this 13 or 14? This is 13. Let's start with this. Here she is at MacArthur Park. Oh, sound.
I am going to say.
Mayor Bass, I need to get my phone and we're departing.
Okay. All right. Mayor Bass.
Mayor Bass.
Any
comment, Mayor Bass?
Thank you.
Mayor Bass, any comment?
Yes, my comment is they need to leave, and they need to leave right now. They need to leave because this is unacceptable.
Who did you speak with?
Just wait and see.
Mayor Bass,
They will be leaving soon.
Mayor Bass, who did you speak with on the phone just now? Who did you speak with on the phone?
The head of customs.
Wow.
The head of who?
I am going to say.
What?
Mayor Bass, I need to get my phone and
Of customs? So apparently, one of the off-brand Gestapo guys gives his phone to Karen Bass to speak to the head of customs, and says, "Get you people out of here." And he's like, "We're gonna leave. Can I have my phone back?" I mean, this is just like, are you kidding me?
It's a
Understand, as much as these people, like the crews you're seeing in LA, the crews that we've seen videos, they are the top ICE guys. And then the drop off from there is probably exponential. And then they're going to hire 10,000 more of these essentially mall cops. I mean, that's basically what they're going to be doing. They already can't get, they get the washouts from the police force, and these are going to be wall cops. Mall cops, rather.
I mean, mall cops, that is like almost maybe the better case scenario, because these people seem to get off on this. If you're signing up for this, it's likely. But there was I missed this over the weekend. But apparently there were ICE officers who went to a school in the LA school district and were caught on surveillance camera, like peeing on the school grounds, publicly urinating outside. Like, they're just, before being asked to leave.
Let's play this clip.
I mean, is this, by the way, if these weren't like the Gestapo protected by Donald Trump and the administration, are you allowed to like whip it out in a school park? I mean, on school grounds? It seems a little like this should be a charge, but it's not going to be because these guys all cover their faces. I mean, we all need to watch it, but like it's
they're both peeing behind the buildings.
It like, what are they doing? Why are you on school property at all?
It's disgusting.
And some of the reports too out of the area of like waiting outside of elementary school graduations, the administration is enabling the child traffickers and sexual assaulters across the country, because this is just like now a part of American society that masked people in unmarked cars can come up and take mothers and daughters. I mean, of course, men too, but you worry even more about, like, say, sexual violence in those other situations. That's where my mind goes to. How do people know if an ICE agent doesn't identify themselves? It could be anybody that's taking a kid, or a woman, or a mother, or a father, of course.
Here's Karen Bass later at a press conference.
Frankly, it is outrageous and un-American that we have federal armed vehicles in our parks when nothing is going on in the parks. It's outrageous and un-American that the federal government seized our state's National Guard. It's outrageous and un-American that we have U.S. Marines who are trained to kill foreign soldiers overseas deployed in our American city.
This is going to increasingly become the story over the course of the next 6 to 18 months. And even if the Democrats can take control of the House, it's unclear what kind of authority they can exercise over what ICE is doing. It's going to involve people organizing, resisting at times, whether it's, reporting on ICE sightings through that ICE Block app or other apps. It's going to involve, there are examples of communities that when ICE comes in, they have been successful in pushing ICE back and out. Because again, these people are not trained for this. Something horrible is going to happen. There's no doubt about it. And it's really probably just a question of when. But people are going to have to resist this on an active way. People are going to have to make a decision at one point. How much they're willing to do, because things are going to get a lot worse before there's any opportunity for them to get better. We'll talk more about this, and we'll play you that clip. We'll play that clip later in the program of Brooke Rollins, who is the ag secretary, and just I can't get past that. But we will talk about that in a bit. In a moment, we're going to be talking to Dr. Rob Davidson, West Michigan emergency physician and executive director of the Committee to Protect Healthcare, on what the implications of this billionaire benefit bill that just passed, and what the potential is of helping people get health care moving forward. But we'll talk about that in a moment. First, couple of words from our sponsors. Headlines right now, obviously, chock full of data breaches and a ton of regulatory rollbacks. Do not call registries. Forget about it. Data breaches, I mean, there's nobody holding these corporations to account. We are all vulnerable, but you can do something about it. Delete Me is here to make it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online. You want an easier way to deal with data breaches? Get Delete Me. Fact is, we're all at risk. I don't know about you, but I've gotten about probably a half a dozen letters over the past year saying that my info was part of a data breach. The good news is Delete Me can help. Delete Me does all the hard work of wiping you and your family's personal information from data broker websites. Delete Me knows your privacy is worth protecting. Sign up. Provide Delete Me with exactly what information you want deleted. Email, addresses, old addresses, relatives, and their experts take it from there. Delete Me sends you regular personalized privacy reports showing what they found, where they found it, and what they removed. And Delete Me is not just a one-time service. All these data broker sites repopulate. There's more data breaches. Delete Me is always working for you. It's constantly monitoring and removing personal information you don't want on the internet. I was using Delete Me probably 8 years before they came to us to be a sponsor because for obvious reasons, doing a job like this, I want as little of my personal information out there as possible. I take a couple of steps, but Delete Me is basically the centerpiece of that. And it's the way that I protect my family, way that I protect my business, my personal information. And it's super easy to use. And it gives me a sense. Every month I get a report. Take control of your data. Keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/majority. Deleteme.com/majority. Use the promo code majority at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go join deleteme.com/majority. Enter the code majority at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/majority. The code is majority. Deleteme.com. It's joindeleteme.com. Spread out. I can't tell, but check it out. We'll put the info in the podcast and YouTube description. Also, sponsoring the program today, a service that is going to take a lot of weight off of your head. If you have a new family, or an old family for that matter, and you don't have a trust, I should say a will rather, listen to this. It is crucial that you are prepared for stuff that's going to be an eventuality, and hopefully it'll be a long way off, but better to get it done now so you don't worry. Trust and Will can help ensure that your loved ones are covered when it comes to things like medical decisions and power of attorney. Incidentally, if you have a kid who's over 18, you should also look into that too, because you don't have the medical authority that you think you do if they're in a position, God forbid. So this is very helpful to get stuff like power of attorney from, let's say your 19-year-old daughter, for instance, or something to that effect. Go to trustandwill.com/majority. Get 20% off their simple, secure, expert-backed estate planning services. I've been noodling around on this. I'm thinking about a trust, honestly, because things are getting a little hairy and around here. And, to the extent that I have assets, I don't want my Subaru to be tied up in the event that somebody comes after me for whatever reason.
Fair.
It is super important. I remember when I finally got a will after Milo was born, but it was way too late. You're worried, and then all of a sudden you have a sense of relief. It's a worst case scenario situation, but you don't want to be in that situation. Having that peace of mind is huge. Get this off your plate, and you couldn't have an easier way to do it now. Their easy to use website, like I say, is super easy and it's very easy to navigate. All your information and documents are securely stored with bank level encryption. Each will or trust is state specific. It is legally valid and it's customized to your needs. Estate planning can be super complicated, but you don't need to have a huge estate. And the beauty of it is you can set it up in such a way that 10 years from now, if you all of a sudden have assets, you've earmarked it already. It is super easy. They walk you right through it. It's got an overall rating of excellent and thousands of 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. It's used by hundreds of thousands of families and counting. We can't control everything, but Trust and Will can help you take control of protecting your family's future. Go to trustandwill.com/majority. Get 20% off. That's 20% off trustandwill.com/majority. Quick break. When we come back, Dr. Rob Davidson, West Michigan emergency physician and executive director of the Committee to Protect Healthcare. We'll be right back after this. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigland on the Majority Report. Pleasure to welcome to the program Dr. Rob Davidson. He's a West Michigan emergency physician and executive director of the Committee to Protect Healthcare. I want to just start with this clip from ABC News from Saturday of this past week. This was just in the wake of the passage of this big billionaire benefit bill, which is going to cut nearly $1 trillion out of Medicaid. And because of automatic pay-go rules, very well may cut another $500 billion out of Medicaid over the course of the next 10 years. Medicare over the course of the next 10 years. Here's that clip.
Set to enact the largest cuts to Medicaid in decades, experts are warning that many struggling hospitals in rural communities could close their doors. On Thursday, moments before the Senate passed the bill, Curtis Medical Center in rural Nebraska announced it would be forced to shut down, saying it was in part due to the anticipated changes to Medicaid and cuts in federal funding. Local data shows the next closest urgent care facility that accepts Medicaid is nearly 30 miles away. Joining me now is Tyler Sherman. He's registered.
And that's basically, all you need to know about that. That is a story that we're probably going to hear over and over again. Rob Davidson, what, I can imagine what your reactions are to what we're going to see, but give us a sense of how widespread you think this is going to be in terms both on the provider side, but obviously what it's going to mean to people who are going to lose their health insurance.
Yeah. This is critical. I've been an emergency doctor more than half my life now. For 27 years, I've been working in a rural community in Michigan for 23 of those years. And, Medicaid is about a third to upwards of 40% of our patient population coming into the ER. And so if those folks lose insurance, first, it's cruel to those individuals, right? Because they won't have affordable health care. People still have to come in if they're having chest pain, if they're having a stroke, if they're having signs of appendicitis. They now will just be saddled with huge bills, most of which they won't be able to pay. We just got an email from the CEO of our entire system. This is not some liberal activist out there. This is someone running a massive hospital system in Michigan who said this is going to have ripple effects throughout the entire system, throughout the entire state. Because if those folks come in and have uncompensated care, hospitals have to make that up somewhere, right? So people with insurance, people with Medicare, people with employer insurance are going to be paying more for premiums because we know insurance companies aren't going to eat that cost. So this is devastating. The biggest change in healthcare in 60 years since Medicaid and Medicare came on board.
Can you expand on that? The care piece, the phrase just escapes me. But when they have to come in because the federal government says if you come into an emergency, uncompensated care, federal government says if you come into an emergency room, they have to treat you. What that burden on hospitals that already ERs are just completely swamped here. This is going to make that problem worse exponentially, it appears.
Even right now when we're not having, flu season or any major like RSV and kids season in the winter, we're boarding people for upwards of 24 hours. I just worked a shift the other day and I had someone finally leave having a heart attack after 23 hours in the emergency department to go to the big regional heart center because they didn't have any beds. That problem is going to explode because more people, we're talking people who can't get colonoscopies, can't get mammograms, can't get just routine diabetic care or afford insulin. They're going to come in crisis and they're going to go to the only place they can go. I love EMTALA. EMTALA is the law since 1986 that has said, if you have an emergent condition, you will be seen, you will be cared for. I love it. I'm a bleeding heart and I want to take care of patients and everybody deserves health care. The problem is it still costs something. It still costs to have those people seen and have them admitted and have surgery or whatever else they need. And someone is going to pay that price. It isn't the hospital. It isn't the insurance company. It's those people who, are going to be paying higher premiums. And then in the end, what's going to happen is what they're talking about in Nebraska. Hospitals will just close. People having a heart attack will have to go another 30, 40 minutes up to an hour away, suffering worse consequences. It's really devastating, and we got to keep telling this story because the Republicans own it. They did this, and this is going to have massive effects on everyone.
At this point, we have really only for the most part, CBO sort of modeling as to how many people are going to lose their health care based upon this. I think there's some other outfits that have done their own versions of this. CBO is saying it could be upwards like 15 million people. I mean, it could be more. It's not going out, it's not happening for another 2 years, in which case, you're going to see a growth of, we have population growth. I mean, who knows what the economy is going to be in that instance. Do we have within the context of your locality or within the Michigan system, do they have a sense of how many patients we're going to lose? I mean, this is just the Medicaid part. No one has really sort of like contemplated the Medicare part yet, because that's an automatic result of the deficit that they're going to run. There are pay-go rules, and I guess it theoretically could be avoided, but I don't see how it would be with this Republican Congress. So are you guys like, how do you plan for this?
I mean, you plan like they're doing in Nebraska. These budgets, they're projecting out, 5 years or so, probably around that, and projecting a loss of all of that revenue when we're talking about small hospitals, critical access hospitals, rural, disproportionate care hospitals in big cities. These are places that depend upon A, Medicaid patients, B, the provider tax that the final bill is reducing. That's a way that hospitals or states raise money from hospitals, get federal matching dollars, and then bring back more money to those hospitals. When all of that is going away, the hospitals have to plan out in what they can provide. Now, maybe your hospital doesn't close down, but maybe they shut down outpatient lab for a period. Maybe they shut down x-ray. Maybe clinics will close. Access to care. And that's not just people with Medicaid, right? Anybody who's in that community. I mean, I work in a place that's an hour to the big regional heart center and stroke center, right? So we see people, we can provide them with emergent care, and then we get them down the road to somewhere that can do more definitive care. But those critical early moments are like saving parts of people's brains, saving parts of their heart, helping them avoid long-term disability. And the Republicans have said, we don't care about that. And the reason we know the pay-go piece where Medicare will likely, lose funding won't be fixed by the current Congress. Most of the opposition to this bill was not from sort of vulnerable Republicans who supposedly didn't want to vote against Medicaid. I mean, Tom Tillis gave the most impassioned speech, and he's not going to run for re-election because he knew it would sink him in the eyes of the GOP. It was the Freedom Caucus. It was these deficit guys that said, this isn't bad enough. You're not cutting enough. You're not killing enough people. So we want it to be worse. They're not going to come to the rescue of Medicare. It's very disheartening as a guy who's been doing this for so long, and I know my colleagues all feel the same way. But we're there now. At the Committee to Protect Healthcare, we got 36,000 docs around the country. We've been speaking out as this thing's been rolling up. We've been having press calls and press conferences in Republican districts. We're making plans to do that for the next 16 months so people understand what they just did to them and their communities, and then they can vote them out accordingly.
There's a two-part challenge here, right? I mean, one is communicate what is about to happen. I mean, not about, but 12 months off, 16 months off, so that people can vote accordingly prior to that time. I imagine we're going to see some hospitals start to pare back over the course of the next 12 months and identifying those, either closures or limiting of services as a function of the impending bill. Because like you say, 5-year plan, if I know I'm going to lose 25% of my revenue 2 years from now, for sure, or 35%, I'm going to make my cutbacks now so I can sort of like smooth that out a little bit. But is there also like anybody talking about the potential, because these cuts are not going to be implemented until 27, 28, of the potential in the 28 election to come back in and reverse these things?
Yeah, I mean, the hope is, right? I mean, the reality is almost nothing can get done because of the filibuster. So it all has to happen through this process, right? You get 50+1,
Right.
and you can get
The
things
reconciliation.
passed. Yeah, reconciliation. And so the reality is, if we can reverse this trend in 26 and have a Republican House in 27, we can limit future damage, right? Because they're not done, right? There's still more money to give to billionaires, and there's still more poor people who you can take away from. That I'm sure they can find ways to do that. But then you have to keep building. I mean, this is a multi-year, multi-election process to then in 28 get the right people in. So starting in 29, and you hate to have to think this way every time, but it's how they think, right? It's how they run, how politicians go. So we all have to kind of adapt. But yeah, in 29, you can get back some of that funding, I suppose. You can do a budget bill that is, will raise taxes on billionaires, which we, of course, should be doing, and will get health care for people who need it, which is, frankly, in my opinion, and most of our opinions, everybody. Like, everybody deserves health care. So, yeah, that's the plan.
I imagine you have colleagues at your hospital whose patients that they see on a regular are Medicaid patients. Like, what are they starting to hear, or what are they starting to tell their patients who may not be able to see them in 12 months?
Yeah. I mean, I think those hard conversations are starting to happen. I think as providers, we try to avoid the kind of doomsday and doom and gloom conversations, and even, I mean, talking about coverage at all. I mean, the reality is when we go in a room, we don't look at someone's insurance. You just go, you see them. But when you're making plans for them getting a test or getting admitted or getting a prescription, you have to have the conversations, because even people with health insurance in this country, more than 50% of employer plans are high deductible plans. People making $20 an hour with a $2,500 deductible, they can't afford healthcare either, right? They can certainly afford cancer treatment or major surgery better than if they didn't have insurance, but routine care is still tough. So I think, yeah, those are starting to happen where people, maybe they have to start kind of storing up on certain meds that they won't be able to get, or get some of their tests out of the way sooner rather than later. Don't wait, for down the road. I think those are the tough conversations that we shouldn't have to have, but they put us all in the position of having to do that. I will say I had an OB come down just a few weeks ago as this was all being contemplated. And, for what we have all heard, 40-some% of the deliveries in this country are people on Medicaid. She said, I don't know how we keep an L&D, a labor and delivery unit, open, given that, right? So now what? I mean, is it just going to be home births if you live in a rural area? I mean, okay, sometimes that works out great, but I've seen catastrophic outcomes of home births that haven't gone well in communities that is, a predominant mode of delivery. We don't want to kind of make that our default system in a lot of these places, and they might force us to do that.
Well, I mean, that fits in nicely to like something I would love if you could expand on, is how this is going to affect preventative care. If you're somebody that feels like, hey, I'm not feeling great, I have an issue, but you're in a community where the rural hospital has closed, and in many cases, this is like the only hospital in an hour radius. It also makes it much less likely, one, that yes, if there's an emergency, you could die in the ambulance, but also, if you want to seek out preventative care or see a doctor because you're having an issue, it might be too much of a burden for you, especially if you can't get off work. Like, that's some of the stuff that I'm worried about seeing as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not just the rural hospitals, it's the entire rural health system. So, with the hospital or the outpatient departments, it's, for ours, it's just kitty corner across the parking lot is a multi-specialty clinic with family docs and pediatricians and surgeons and OBs and specialists who come from the big hospital, an hour away and come up and see people for their aftercare. If that all goes away, you have people who aren't going to be managing their diabetes as well as they should, or their blood pressure. Now you have more people having strokes, more people having heart attacks. Again, the ripple effects, it isn't far-fetched to try to envision this dystopian reality. It will happen. sometimes it happens slowly enough, people don't quite recognize the root causes of it. I think that's why organizations like the one I run and others, shows like this, I mean, we have to keep telling people, we have to keep reminding people, like, all of this dysfunction of the system. The Republicans own it now, right? They hung the ACA around the necks of Democrats after they passed that. And it wasn't until years later people realized, okay, imperfect, but man, it's sure made a real difference in a lot of people's lives, particularly expanded Medicaid under the ACA. But affordable insurance, tax subsidies, another thing they didn't address that's going to go away, and another 4 million people lose insurance, and another some 10 odd million are going to have more expensive insurance because of that. I mean,
I wanted to just touch on that in particular, because I think, we hear a lot about the Medicaid. The Medicare stuff is sort of like people, I think, have barely touched upon the cuts to Medicare that are going to end up coming. But there's also, like you say, a massive amount of people who are either going to be losing their health insurance through the ACA exchanges, or be paying $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 more annually because of it. And do we have numbers on that, or what the implications of that are in terms of people, or is that wrapped up in the CBO's 17 million figure?
I think that's in the 17 million, but 4 million of that is considered that ACA piece where people will lose insurance. But another, I've seen numbers around 10 million who will just have more expensive insurance, right? Their premiums will be higher. It's almost, if you devise a bill to screw over the most people possible and make them the least healthy possible, this could be the perfect bill to do that, because of how many aspects of the healthcare system that it completely unravels. The CEO email we got, they said these cuts aren't waste, fraud, and abuse. This is critical, compassionate care. And I almost think we have to keep saying that.
I mean, it seems to me that essentially what is being cut is essentially a repeal of Obamacare, or at very least the ACA part of it, right? Like the expansion of Medicaid, the exchanges, as opposed to the patient protection elements, remain in terms of private insurance. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about, 10 or 12 million or 13 or 14 million people losing Medicaid, that was the ACA expansion. And then, another 4 or 5 million people losing their health insurance on the exchanges. That's almost half of the people on the exchanges, maybe a third of people on the exchanges. But the prices are going up, rendering the granted, not the best of impact. The exchanges didn't do much in terms of making it terribly affordable. It slowed the rate of increase marginally, but it's basically a repeal of the Affordable Care Act, and it was never really communicated that way.
Yeah.
No, it's an end around, right? John McCain with the thumbs down stopped it in its tracks when they tried to do it full.
But that was effective. The Democrats actually were able to stop that then, and they didn't message it the same way this time.
Yeah, we do need to do better, but I think the reality is, I think doctors, patients, hospitals, I think hospital systems need to be brave and communicate to the public what this means to their system and their community, and not worry about like getting called names by Trump. I think doctors need to be brave and stand up and communicate effectively. I was at a shift just about 3 days ago, and we had done a press conference in Lansing, Michigan, in Tom Barrett's district, Michigan 7, swing Republican district, about Medicaid cuts. And I was on the local TV, and a guy came up to me, part of our janitorial staff, who I've known for several years. He said, "Hey, I heard your speech. Thanks so much for doing that. I really appreciate it." And so we can get to people. We can explain this to people. We all need to do it, because frankly, they're not going to trust politicians on either side. At some point, they just throw up their hands and say, it's all politics. They all, they have a certain opinion of all the politicians. Yes, they need to do it, need to do better. But it's really on groups of advocates. And as a physician, I take that responsibility seriously, and we do as an organization. We're going to be there. We need to just keep talking about it and let people know what happened with this bill and what this means to them and their communities.
Do you have a sense of whether heads of these big hospital groups, and I have my issues, I should say, with these big hospital groups. I mean, we are at a very precarious point with the level of concentration we have of hospitals and the sort of contraction of our medical system as it exists already. And this is going to make it that much more precarious. But do you have a sense that there's a certain intimidation factor, that their response to this bill was muted because, and I imagine, rural Michigan, I have some awareness of what the politics are going to be like in a rural Michigan area, and they're going to be somewhere, between militia and, a conservative, I think.
We're full on of militia, please. We're there. But yeah, and I actually live in Betsy DeVos's county, right? We live about a half hour from where her biggest mansion is.
Do you think that there's a certain amount of intimidation factor as to how much people were able to speak up and say, this is going to seriously inhibit, obviously they're there for a profit motive, but it's going to seriously inhibit their ability to just sort of like serve X amount of people?
Yeah, I imagine there is, right? I'm not in those rooms. I don't work in the C-suite in the hospital, but in the muted response, that's the only explanation, right? I'm sort of proud, a little bit surprised and proud that the CEO did send out this email to staff, right? This is all staff, letting them know the negative impacts, and very clearly said this isn't a political statement. This is just reality of what this is going to do. And so, they were pretty brave around COVID when people were saying, something about vaccines and how they don't actually help and all that, and we knew that was all BS. They came out and defended, the realities of COVID and the vaccines. I hope they are brave enough to do that, but I mean, we've seen, right, the retribution just in public comments from the Trump administration, but who knows what else they would do, how they could weaponize the government against these big systems. We've seen in the media, right, people paying out to Trump and his cronies, so they can get deals through. I mean, it's a dangerous time because people may put that before, just communicating reality and trying to take care of their communities. But the reality is this is going to be so devastating, they can't just put their head in the sand and ignore it. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what they do next.
One last question, and this may be a little bit, it may be too early to see, but I have to imagine that if I am contemplating the idea of going to medical school, and I'm seeing the assault on student loan programs, and two, I'm seeing the assault on science and coming out of the HHS, and the complete attack on science, on medical treatments, on and then I see, and then I would imagine there's also sort of a separate pressure coming, like that guy who sends out that memo to everybody, they're not looking to hire new doctors right now, I would imagine. Do you have any knowledge of essentially like a dearth of, like, I would imagine we're going to see it from medical schools, that their admissions or applications are going to go down, because I just don't know how somebody says, like, I'm not going to go into this job as a doctor
and put myself into debt.
Maybe I'll be an Instagram influencer and, push beetroot or something. But I'm not going to go be a doctor.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak anecdotally. I'm in my mid 50s. Med school cost me about $70,000, 30 years ago. But I had a colleague who's in his early 30s, still paying off loans, and he brought this up to me. I didn't see the student loan, piece of this because I hadn't focused on it. He said, I come from like a poor family. He said, I would not have gone to medical school if those were my loan options, right? If I was taking on that degree of debt and it was going to saddle me the way this new setup. And I don't have all the details. You've probably spoken about it and you will continue to speak about it, but it does make it prohibitive for people who aren't rich. So you're going to see, rich kids going to med school perhaps, And then the other piece I think we can look to is the impact of state abortion bans on people applying to medical schools and residencies, going to residencies in those states. Factors outside of individual aspirations to be a doctor, to care for patients, impact people's decisions to do that in certain places. Abortion bans, had a decrease in folks in all specialties because they said, I just don't want to be in that place when practicing medicine involves, potentially going to jail. And so absolutely, I think we're going to see a chilling effect. And we already have a physician shortage in particularly these rural areas. Yep. I guess their secret is they close the hospital, close the clinic. There's no longer physician shortage because there's nowhere for them to work anyways.
Okay,
but yeah, I think that's another thing.
Just one more question really quickly, Dr. Davidson. When we're talking about how our healthcare system has so consolidated already, and we see these Medicaid cuts that are going to dramatically affect the margins of even the largest conglomerates in the country, does part of the silence that you're seeing play into the fact that the administration is going to be responsible for any future mergers and overseeing that? And they're worried about, I heard this from somebody that works in corporate America, their biggest competitor, it's like the threat that they're going to be pitted against one another. And if they don't do what Trump says, that's going to be the one that gets selected for X contract. Like, it seems like that could be playing out right now in the medical system in terms of the Medicaid cuts and their impact.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. The other piece is private equity, right? Their deep involvement in medical practices and hospitals. I have a good friend in Philly who just lost his job because his hospital, Crozier and Delco, closed down, and he's now driving 2 hours, working night shifts in other parts of Pennsylvania while he's trying to find a new job. That piece as well, consolidation and private equity. And yeah, those folks certainly stand to benefit from the tax piece of this bill. But obviously want to stay in the favor of the administration or anyone in that administrative state that can kind of decide and determine what they can do next. It's sad that that's part of the calculus of these systems. We'll see when these cuts start coming through and they have to make these financial decisions based on the cuts, if that's a stronger impetus for them to speak out and to try to help push for policies that benefit patients that eventually benefit them. I guess we'll have to see.
Aside from folks individually talking to their neighbors and folks organizing in their localities and looking towards organizations that are pre-existing, and whether it's unions or DSA or I don't know, even local indivisible, or is there specifically any way that folks in Michigan or in general can get involved in what you folks do?
Yeah, at committee2protect.org, really anybody can come on and get involved and support financially, I suppose, but really physicians, healthcare providers, we want you all to join up, to be a part of this movement. So we can, we are all advocates daily for our patients, banging our head against the wall, getting things covered by insurance companies. We have the ability to be advocates in a wider sense and help protect our entire communities. And if you're in any number of these 40 some odd, swing districts that are going to determine the fate of Congress in the next election, we need you to be involved. We need you to speak up, and we can provide the apparatus to be able to do that.
Dr. Rob Davidson, Director of the Committee to Protect Healthcare. We'll put a link to that organization. Thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you both.
All right, folks. We're going to head into the fun half of the program in a moment, but let's bring in our guest for the fun half.
Or to preview the fun half?
Yeah, where is he? Oh, there he is. Oh, look who's come in.
You're just gonna have to just
come right over here.
Oh, come over there?
Yeah, where's his headphones? Oh, it's on the desk. There we go.
Hello.
Wow, look at this. Wow.
I do control this camera, so maybe go to a one shot and then we'll do the two shot.
Yeah, okay.
We were gonna fix this in the fun half, but
look at this. Look
Hello.
who's in studio. Okay, wide. Now here, slide over your chair that way.
Okay.
Wait, now I
It's
can't
gonna feel
see.
a little bit closer, but
Hold on.
Okay. Oh, you want me to get like all the way in here?
Yes, but I'm gonna move.
wrong
Don't
way.
worry.
There you go, right there. That's fine.
Oh my God, you guys have such. This is crazy. This is crazy production.
What do you mean?
This is crazy production. I can't believe like you got
How great it looks.
Why do we have that line in between there?
This way?
Yeah.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
there we go. Wow. All right.
Here.
There we are.
Boom. I don't want to
my
hide the
gosh.
Majority Report
Logo.
logo,
Don't worry
but
about-
Wow.
Look who's here.
It's gonna
All
be a
right,
little
well,
difficult. Look at that.
I don't need the headphones until unless we watch like a video, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. I don't normally.
Do you have ear pods or anything like that, or no?
I just only have like the Apple, the big AirPods, so it's fine.
This is the first time I've ever seen you in person. You have very large arms.
Oh,
I didn't
that's
realize you
oh
had
my
the
God, that's
muscles
crazy. I didn't
what
even.
a coincidence.
Yeah.
I didn't even think
mean,
about that.
No, I didn't.
I didn't get the same compliment when I walked in my tank top today, but it's
Yeah,
fine.
you got real tan.
yeah,
I was
I was
expecting you to have the
arms.
same reaction. Well, so much for the arm wrestling contest that we had planned for the fun half. I think we'll probably put that on pause. That water, incidentally, is for you.
Oh,
and
thank you.
That mug is for you.
Oh wow! 20 years of pausing it.
Yeah, there you go.
Majority Report Radio. What an incredible get. Is this available on the shop?
Yes.
It is, but
Okay.
that one is for you. But we also do have some other merch that we're going to have you model in the fun half.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't want to do it now?
No, yeah, I guess we could do it now, and then we'll go to the fun half. Wait a second, let me fix my camera.
Fix your camera. Why are you in New York?
I'm doing an interview with Mahmoud Khalil. I'm doing something with Hasan Minhaj. And most importantly, I was like, I have to come on the Majority Report. I was ducking you guys
We have
for too long.
We have new trucker hats in the merch store.
wow.
at,
And we'll sell a lot more if you actually put this on.
Majority
Of
Report
course.
Radio.
Let me grab
So
it.
do
Let
you
me wear
mind?
It's a
that.
special one that we thought might be good for you.
Max left. Oh my God. Are you actually? Is this one of the hats for real?
It is one of the
I love that.
Yeah, there
Max
you go.
left.
There you go.
This is
ladies
my
and
idea.
Yeah,
was
I
great.
For
like
you to
it.
model it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is gonna piss some
That
people off. I
looks-
think.
I think it might. All right. Well, listen, we got to take a break and head into the fun half of the program where you can join us with our special guest today in studio. Just a reminder, if you want to support the program, join themajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, you get the fun half as well, and you can IM us. And also justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, hot chocolate. Use the coupon code Majority, get 10% off. Left Reckoning happening tonight. I think Matt's on break, but maybe who knows what he's doing. But check it out. It should be good.
He doesn't seem to be fond of breaks.
Yeah, Matt doesn't really take a break. It really just means more gaming, I think, is really what's going on. All right, we'll see you in the fun half. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.